listening to and watching the now steaming podcast where we serve fresh, hot takes from the Tsinoy millennial perspective. My name is Stancy, and this is a project I've been doing in collaboration with the creators of So Asian Comics, Cedric Cheng and Kimberly Mas. How are you guys doing tonight?
Hey Stan, what's up? It's a Sunday night, and my parents are just really wondering what this podcast is. I mean, obviously, I don't want to tell them, oh, it's all about this topic. So yeah, I'm just keeping it mum for now, and hopefully, like they'll find out when it's when we drop it or like on
Yeah, so by the
Spotify or
time this is
whatever.
out, alam na
Yeah,
nila.
yeah. But while recording, it's fine. They don't know it. Okay lang,
Mhm.
bahala na yan.
How about you, Ced? How are you? How are you heading into tonight's recording?
Oh, well, I'm currently alone here in my office studio and with all the lights, and I'm using our company DSLR as a webcam. So far, so good. So, other than that, I just prepared my own dinner and I'm gonna wash the dishes
Oh.
later. I'm just hoping that our internet is will continually be stable because of the harsh rains earlier.
Yeah,
So my
as we're recording
yeah.
today, no, I particularly enjoyed the subtle flex, like two flexes in one sentence. I am alone in our office studio, and I've got a DSLR as
Oh
my
yeah.
camera for tonight. Like,
Yes.
how subtle can we get with our flexes?
No, it's just so that no parents will be walking in and asking what I'm
Yeah,
doing, and
true,
like no,
true.
like
That's so hard.
yeah. So this is like a luxury for me where I can have my own time and my own place without being bothered. So
Mm,
yeah.
mm.
It's very timely, actually, that you mention, this is something you want to do. This recording session, this conversation is something you want to do without your parents getting wind of it or coming in and asking questions. Because yung topic natin for this episode is all about something that our parents have had a huge hand in, whether they realize it or not. And those are our respective careers. So, since this is a podcast tackling things from yung perspective natin as Chinoys, as Chinese Filipinos from the millennial generation, I think all of us can identify with the idea that there are careers that are normally associated with Chinoys, diba?
Yep. I can name a few. Like, hindi ko na drop like which school. Probably
Yeah,
just
sure,
the
sure, sure.
course.
Sure.
Management,
Uh-huh.
business,
Uh-huh.
economics. What else?
Engineering,
Yes, engineering. What else do we got?
Bio. Pre-med,
Bio.
diba?
Yeah. Med. Yeah.
Comsci.
Consci,
Lawyer.
yes. Yeah,
Lawyer.
any pre-law course,
Yes.
basically, di
Yes.
ba? Actually, yung mga ano if you take a course na medyo uncommon, like let's say psychology, medyo nasa uncommon na siya eh, as
Yeah. Yeah.
opposed to
Yeah.
like the more common like business and economics and all that, di ba? Like psychology, philosophy, isipin agad nila, pre-law ba yan? Di ba? Kasi like
Yeah.
it has to lead to something bigger or something that's considered more lucrative, di ba? You take a look at all those careers, about those fields, entrepreneurship, being a
Yeah.
business owner, being the head of a
MBA.
company, yun, may mga masters, lawyer, doctor, engineer. Iniisip mo na dapat yung pangmayaman or yung tipong course na yayaman ka eventually.
Yayaman. Yeah. That's right. Well put. Like well said. Definitely. That's
Like
the bottom line.
yes,
Bottom.
that's the bottom line. And the funny thing is, the stereotype actually proves itself. Like, when you go to college, you'll realize na marami talaga mga Chinoy na students in these fields. Like, I remember going to UP, and whenever I would hang out in the College of Business Administration, or CBA, I think they've since changed the name of that building, but when I hung out there, kasi nandun yung org ko, a lot of the students were Chinoys. So like, because of the physical characteristics, or mga kakilala ko rin, like I knew they were Chinoy. So, what do you guys think na about this idea na meron talagang course na typically associated with people like us?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely there are courses like that. Yeah, especially business since you pointed it out, like you went to UP and you went to the School of Business and majority were Chinoy. So I went to a school. This university is actually quite popular with mga Chinoys who moved to Canada. So Vancouver in particular, so UBC. So it's like a really big university there for Chinoys or anyone from Asia actually. Like it's an Asian university there in Vancouver. And I actually had the privilege of visiting their business school one time. Like I think was doing some tours with my brother before he was gonna go to college because he's actually taking up what's he taking up? Oh, he graduated, but he took up computer. I'm not so sure, computer science, something like that.
Robotics, was it?
Yeah, something like that. But anyways, like going back to my story, like I went to the business building there and I knew everyone, almost everyone there. Like, hey, I didn't know you were here. Like mostly like Ecans and Xaverians, right? From the same year or someone younger or someone older, they're all there. And I'm like, wow, you guys are all in the University of British Columbia's like school of business. How how I what do you call this? It's
How
kind of
Chinoy of you.
very Chinoy of them. Yes, very Chinoy of them to go there. So yeah, super funny lang.
How about you, said? Did you ever have this idea in your head na, yeah, ito yung course na typically associated with people like me, mga Chinoy. So, pag ako nag-graduate ako from high school, malamang dito rin ako pupunta.
Just more of for me, just more of when I got into college, like, and if I wanted to see like familiar faces. I mean, I studied in CSB, right? So I just knew that I had to cross the street to LaSalle and enter the Agno, their food, their outdoor food cafeteria. And I would see lots of people, like my batchmates and people from my school, higher and lower batch, and then they're usually they're either in marketing or engineering. So
Fun. Marketing, engineering, another
marketing,
set of
engineering.
of common
Yeah.
courses for
Yep,
Chinoys.
yep.
There were like a few of my friends from my alma mater, high school, and I was like, "Hey, where are you guys? Are you free?" So I would just go on to Agno and or that Kim. What was that condo? But there were also a lot of restaurants beside LaSalle.
UPAD? Was that
You
UPAD? No, no, no. I know what you're talking about. U Mall? Was
yeah,
that U Mall?
U-Mall, and then there on the other side. I forgot what that was called, but I would see a
Whatever.
lot of
Just that
my
building, yeah.
I would see a lot of my friends and also Chinoys in general. So in contrast to me being in multimedia arts in the SDA campus, there's just
No
like
one there.
no,
No one,
maybe
no one who looked like you, no one
yeah,
who went
or
through
maybe
the same
just
background,
just
ganon.
two or three people, but that's that. Where they're in different blocks, so I'm not close with them.
Right, yeah. I
Yeah.
had a similar experience kasi while I did hang out dun sa BA building ng UP a lot because of my org, I was actually a mass comm student. So I took up broadcom over in UP, and siguro sa batch namin of like 50, 60 freshmen, tatlo lang ata kaming Chinoy nun. And one of them was my
Ooh.
classmate from Xavier. And then another one was a guy from Bacolod. Na hindi kami close throughout yung college years namin. We only became close ito na, the last couple of years, 2020 and 2021, probably because of the pandemic and like
Yeah.
some other common interests outside of yung time namin in college. So, yung time namin talaga in college, like, there was no bond per se, na parang, oh, Chinoy ka, Chinoy din ako. None of that shit. And it was weird kasi it was like talagang whole new world for me as opposed to yung mga ibang batchmates ko, ibang kakilala ko na Chinoy din who would be in bio, in
Yeah.
BA, Econ, Psych, na, ang dami pa ring Chinoy. And being that mass comm student na Chinoy, it was also weird for them kasi parang, ba't nandito ka?
Oh.
Did you guys ever
Like,
get that?
you don't even belong here, man. Something like that. Yeah, I actually got that. And like you, Stan, I had a similar experience because I took up animation. So Bachelor of Arts in Animation in De La Salle College of St. Benilde. So obviously people would say, oh, are you in the main building or the arts building? And I had to defend myself. I had to say, oh yeah, I was in the arts building. I'm taking up an arts course. That's why I'm there. I'm not in Benilde because I didn't pass LaSalle or anything like that. So yeah, when I went there, we only had like 2 blocks because it was a new course. So man, like the first week, I can tell you, like it was a really difficult time for me. I had to adjust to different types of people, and being someone from Ika, who lived a sheltered life, like most of her life, like sheltered talaga. So it was really difficult for me. Like imagine everyone there was speaking in Tagalog, and I'm not saying I can't speak in Tagalog. I can speak in Tagalog, but their Tagalog is yung sobrang deep. Na there are some words that you don't understand. And the entire time they were just speaking to me in English because they just thought I couldn't speak in Tagalog. So yeah, a lot of adjustments, and both blocks there were only 3 of us rin na Chinoy there, and those 2 other Chinoys, they were like the downtown type of Chinoys. Yung
Yeah.
sobrang, we talked about it during the last episode, the genuine inchik. So I couldn't really relate to them as well. So it's kind of like I'm in the middle of something really, really new. So yeah, the first day, you know what my mom asked me? Like, oh, hey, Kim, how was your first day in college? And do you have any Chinoy blockmates? That was the immediate question.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, there are. I have Chinoy blockmates. There's just two of them. So there, in total, there's three of us. But they're not in my crowd. So I don't think I can get along with them that well. Like just casual, like classmates or blockmates, but not someone I would hang out with. So yeah,
Very
was
interesting yung question
mhm.
ng mom mo, yung parang, meron ka bang blockmate na Chinoy? Parang inisip niya
Yeah,
siguro na, oh, because
yeah,
there was a blockmate or a classmate na Chinoy din, yan na, you have an instant friend. And
yeah.
I think kasi the generation that came before us, yung generation ng parents natin, for them, pag nalaman nilang landang din itong other person, Chinoy din itong kaklase mo or whatever,
Instant friendship.
instant bond, right? But for some reason for us, it doesn't work that
Yeah,
way anymore.
yeah.
Said you're shaking your head. I'm guessing it doesn't work for you as well. When you got into your course, did you also feel like you were a fish out of water?
Actually, no. I made a lot. I made some like quick friends. I remember it wasn't even the first day of school, but there was this orientation like a few months before the first semester.
Sorry, you took the same course, but multimedia arts then.
Multimedia arts from CSP.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, I just befriended them, and basically I started a whole circle of friends within my block for the first few days, and then for the first few weeks of classes officially starting. What's nice, I guess, my experience was that they didn't notice my Asianness, because we talked about the same kinds of things that we're into when it comes to art or music,
Right.
So we
Yung
bonded
pagka-Chinoy
over
mo,
that.
you mean,
Yeah.
it didn't set you apart really.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like you were different. Because we're all Asian, diba? Whether you're Chinese or Filipino
Yeah.
or Chinoy or whatever.
Exactly.
But what you're trying to say is that hindi mo napansin na iba ka talaga from them. Or as kami ni Kim, when we came in, we really felt like we were completely on our own little island.
So, because I would see one of my blockmates, and then he or she would, let's say, wear a band shirt that I listen to, and so I was like, hey, I listen to that band too. So we bond over that. So my culture and upbringing, all that didn't matter.
Okay.
The only ones who kept poking fun at it actually were my professors. Like for some reason, he would call, like some of my profs would call my blockmates by their first names. But when it comes to me, he will always call me by my last name, like Cheng. So I'm like, why? Is Cedric hard to remember or something?
Yeah,
So
Cedric's easier. I think it's just because you're.
yeah, they just wanted to
That's it.
emphasize how
Yeah.
Chinese I am, I guess. So Cheng, and then one of my profs would joke na, kamusta na yung shapawan natin, But, for me, it's a good laugh, I wasn't
Right,
offended by it, yeah.
Depende sa receiver din eh. Like,
Yeah.
you could say na, oh, that was a low-key microaggression. Diba? Low-key na microaggression pa. But, it depends on who's receiving it. And, good for you na, or good on you na you took it as, just playful banter. But,
Yeah.
zooming out a bit, how did you get into that career choice or that
Oh.
course of choice to begin with? Kasi you guys talked about being in multimedia arts and being like the only Chinese Filipino student in your class, and I'm sure there must have been some pushback like from your family, like bakit ka magma-multimedia arts, masyadong mahal yung course na yan, or
Yeah,
anong
yeah.
career ba makukuha mo from that course?
I think it should be
What's the
harder
story?
on said though. Like, I mean, because I'm a girl, so it
Oh.
should be much easier for me. Because like, you know what they say, like if you're
They
a guy,
expect you
you
to
need
get married and you'll
no,
just
no,
take
no,
care of
no,
the
no.
kids
If you're a
anyway.
guy, they expect you to earn the money, like to earn more
Oh.
money. But if you're a girl, like they expect you to just get married after college or something. But yeah, going back to you said, you were saying that your parents, right, initially didn't agree with
Oh,
your
right.
with MMA, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Well, okay. Well, the story is this, like, I grew up enjoying creating things. So, I like to draw with my sketchpad, and I also enjoyed playing Legos. I was also a huge fan of the adventures of Tintin. So, the comics, and then actually that inspired me to have a hobby of, illustrating comic strips, especially for the school newspaper, and also Old Master Q.
Yeah, Lao Futsu.
Yeah, Lao Futsu. In my small batch back in Makati Hope, there was only like two of us artists actually. So that's why like we're the ones who frequently collaborate when it comes to, let's say, designing the batch logo for Sports Fest. I remember it was sixth grade, and we were having our graduation photos taken. So one was your pictorial for your toga. The second one was a costume of what you want to be when you grow up. So I was like, well, I want to be an artist. So, as a sixth grader, my perception of the stereotypical artist, black beret with the
With the easel.
with the easel, and
Yep.
but my parents didn't like it, so they just forced me to wear a business suit and a tie.
How did that feel?
And uh, that was the first time I experienced like a existential or career crisis as early as sixth grade, because during that time
Damn.
I was like, wait, like I'm only basing like what businessmen do, like based on what I see in my dad, right? He's just in his desk pushing papers and filing out stuff that I don't understand. Ako parang I don't imagine that kind of future for myself. And my classmates knew what they wanted to become. Well, ako naman, like I knew what I wanted to become, but at the same time, I felt like, what if it wasn't the right choice to take? Because my parents were against it.
Mhm.
And then I remember, fast forward, like during the last few years of my high school, there was like a career fair, and that was when I was introduced to graphic design and multimedia arts. And ako naman, I realized that, oh, those are the things that I've been doing for my school newspaper. And since during that time as well, I was the one who was in charge of my batch's yearbook. So I was the one who was designing the yearbook, the layouts, and also doing the photography, the creative shoots for my batchmates. I'm like, oh, multimedia arts is like the course for me, because that's what I'm doing now as the sole member of the yearbook committee for my batch. Again, common notion was CSB, tapunan ng di pumasa ng Lasal, but hey, I passed Lasal. I got in orgcom, but I don't like it. I prefer CSB's multimedia arts. So from the get-go, I had a lot of friction. And at the same time, back in high school, I wasn't the best student. I was like in the bottom 10 actually. So I wasn't academically gifted. Like my maths and sciences were all like in the line of 7 or in lower 8s. The grades that I always get high marks in was art, of course, 90 plus, and then history. My history, I would always be around 95 to 98. So those are the kinds of subjects I enjoyed, but the rest, well, okay, I'll just pass, but that's that.
Yeah,
But
the
yeah,
stereotype is na if you're Chinese, magaling ka sa numbers. So
oh
yung
my
story
gosh.
mo about yung mga math and science ko, line of 7, line of 8,
Yep,
Yep, I suck at math too.
it defies the stereotype. Yeah,
exactly,
I
right?
wouldn't call myself a math genius either. I'll
Uh,
get into the story of how I got into mass comm in a bit, but let's get
Yeah.
to your story, Kim. I want
Yeah.
to know about how you
mhm.
ended up being a multimedia art student and what your family said when you decided on that career choice.
Yeah, actually more of I took up, well, me and said we have like a similar course. So I actually took
Yours
up
is more
anime. Yeah,
specialized.
it's specialized. So it's more of I'm a specialized branch of what said took up.
Hmm.
That just to make that clear. So anyways, animation. It was something I wanted ever since I was a kid. I actually wrote it down on my yearbook.
Wow.
I was checking it the other week because I was doing some spring cleaning, and I found out like my grade school wish was actually to be an animator or probably to be a cartoonist or anything of the sort. So I was really like pumped up that time, and of course like I didn't really enjoy high school because I suck in academics. I suck at math, Filipino as well as science. So
Oh
all of
yeah.
those stereotypical course na sinasabi mo na, magaling yung mga Chinoy mag-math or science. Yes, I suck. I super, like, man, I had a difficult time. Imagine mo either it's line of 7 or like the lower line of 8
Yeah.
grade. So it was really hard for me. And I was a student athlete also back then. So I had to maintain a certain grade. I couldn't fail. So it was really a lot of pressure. But when I went to college, I said, I want to take up something I want. And that's to be, because I wanted to be an animator in Disney or work in some like grand studio in the States or probably like Canada, something like that. Just better opportunities, not here. And yeah, that led me to animation. Initially, my dad was so against it. He wanted me to go to, okay, this is the most stereotypical Chinese parent, the stereotypical Chinese parent convo with you while you're choosing your college course. My dad was like, okay, oh, you're picking CSB animation. Then just go to Ateneo Business. Ateneo Business. And then I said, hindi, ayoko ng business. And then he was like, okay, sige, anything in Ateneo, economics or basta some pre-law course, basta anything daw in Ateneo. And I'm like, why Ateneo? And then he's like, oh, it's because all of the econs and Xavierans are there. I think it'll be easier for you to fit in if you're there in Ateneo. And I'm like, but there's no course for me there. I mean, siguro the most I can take there is probably information design, which is related to graphic design as well. But I told my dad they teach more of theory than application, so I didn't really like that fact. I mean, kahit na Ateneo siya. So, yeah, I told my dad that. And then eventually, my mom was like, parang hayaan mo na, just let her take whatever she wants. And maybe after that, if she wants to take another course, if you want her to take business, then sige, go. Like, you can take that afterwards na lang. So I guess there was not really a lot of pressure on my end, but syempre, there's still that stigma from my dad na parang, what? You gotta take up an arts course? Anong gagawin mo after? Yeah, that's really what he told me. Even though he went to the parent orientation, like we went to the school, did a tour. So he was like, initial impression, he was like, oh, the school's great. Like, the facilities are great, but nah, just go to Ateneo and take up business.
Because of the name.
Yeah, the name, the prestige, and probably, okay, this is probably low-key them telling me to find a husband in Ateneo.
Right.
Because, yeah, another thing then for women, like, if you're taking up a course that's not so popular or, like, it's not the course that Tsinoys would take, like, it's going to be hard for you to find your quote-unquote significant other. So when I didn't share this earlier, but when I went to CSB, the reason why my mom asked me that was because that was first year, right? So in my second year, they brought me to this quote-unquote study tour in Taiwan.
Sa Liberty Hall ba to?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it was kind of marketed to me in a way that, oh,
Study
Kim, you know,
tour.
yeah, it's a study tour, Kim. And I'm like, okay, I'm fine with study tours, but apart from that, you also get to visit Taiwan for 20 days. So for sabi ko,
And meet
oh, that's
people.
great. I mean, I love traveling. Okay, I love traveling. And sabi ko, oh, that's great. I've never been to Taiwan. So sobrang sold na sa akin yung idea. And man, I was so wrong when I went there. I was like, but parang, I actually dragged two of my good friends with me. So when we went there, we were just like, oh, I feel like this is not a study tour. And imagine mo, I think I was 19 back then or
Bakit siya
18.
hindi study tour? Like, what was the goal of the trip then?
Man, everyone there, the age limit was 32, I believe. 32
Wow.
ba yun or 30? Basta nothing beyond 32.
Okay.
I don't know why.
So the idea was to set people up and, you know, let each other hook up and whatever.
Study tour.
Yeah, it's this huge study tour with
Nice.
they get people from like different provinces. Basta Tsinoy ka. Tsinoy ka. Okay, they get you from like different provinces.
Paano nila ma-determine na authentic Tsinoy ka though?
I have no
I'm kidding.
idea.
I'm
Yeah, actually,
I'm kidding.
yeah, that is a requirement though na parang you're Chinese or from a Chinese school. Same thing we talked about before na yung about the Tsinoy identity, all that.
Right.
But it's crazy. Siguro kasi me, I got accepted. It was because my mom knew some people from Liberty Hall, so it was easier for me to get in. And yeah, when I got there, I was so disappointed. I'm like, man, this is a ripoff. This is not a study tour.
So the
This is
idea
a
was parang to Kai
tour.
Shao you. Yes, Kai Shao tour. Right,
There's actually a term
Love
for
boat,
that.
was it?
Yeah, it's called love boat.
What the fuck?
I know, right? Google it.
Love
Google
boat.
it. Love boat yung
I'll
tawag.
Google that after the recording.
Yeah.
Love boat. Bago yun. I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
I want to go back though to something you said before we hit record. Kasi Kim, you pointed out na yung Chinoy society tends to be patriarchal, which I agree with. I think we are very patriarchal, which is why you say
Super.
na yung parents tend to be more controlling tuloy of career choices or course choices.
Especially for men. Like said, wow, you're able to get in MMA with your parents. Or maybe it's because you're the third son, am I right? So siguro not so much pressure on you.
I guess because they're already grooming, like, there's 4 of us siblings and we're all guys. I'm the third. So I think, well, my parents are already grooming like si Ahia. Like they're grooming him to take over the family business. And then, so I guess there's that. That's why they don't have to worry much about
So
me.
it's like the rest of you can go do whatever the fuck you want. Kasi may
Kind of fair to
successor
your
na.
bro.
I guess, yeah, because my second si Diha, he's working as a programmer in
BDO?
in BDO.
BDO.
But then my shorty is the one who's helping my Ahia in the family business. So
Right. So
there's
may
two of
successor
them.
na, may spare tire pa. So the other
Yeah.
two can, you can go fuck off for all I care.
Yeah, do whatever you want.
So
But I still think they're controlling you in some way because like right after graduation you mentioned they're still telling you to change course or like take up another
well, that's for later. Like let's
Okay.
after your experiences first.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
Instance.
In my case, I took up Broadcom nga, di ba? Broadcast communication. And before that, like when I was a kid, I wanted to become an astronaut and then I wanted to become a lawyer. So mas
man.
really lawyer than anything, right? And siguro influence na rin ng dad ko because his personality is very argumentative. He went to law school himself. He never finished, so he never got his law degree. But I was kind of being influenced to go in that direction. And then growing up and watching yung mga teleseries, I would notice na yung mga lawyer character, lagi silang pinapatay. so, so natakot
Yeah.
ako, parang ayokong maging dead body in a ditch. And then, my parents had to explain na, no, that's just what you see in the teleserye. Syempre, you're not gonna go into like litigation or criminal law. You go into corporate law. So, alam mo yung law na nga, and then ginawa pang Tsinoy stereotype, corporate law,
Corporate
pare.
law.
So,
Yeah.
so, like you said, I went to a career talk that literally changed my life. This was in third year sa Xavier. I went to a law career talk where the speaker was this really boring and dull guy who said, in law school, you will be reading 100 pages a day. Tapos he held up pa talaga yung literal readings. And I was like,
Damn.
fuck out of here. Ayoko na. Like, ano naman ako, reader naman talaga ako. Like, I love to read books.
Yeah.
But I hate reading required reading. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sucks.
It does. 100 pages a day. Fuck that. So, that same career day, there was a talk by John Hendricks and Joe Spinner from what was then known as Campus Radio 97.1, yung parang Magic 89.9 ng GMA. So I went there and those were DJs I was listening to and sobrang fascinating to hear their stories about how they were literally being paid to talk about the music, to know about the music, to interview yung mga artists, and I was like, that's what I want to be. So the following year, there was a UP talk naman at our school and then the speaker was really, really eloquent. Ang galing niyang magsalita and it just so happened na ahya siya ng kabarkada ko. So I asked him, uy, ano yung course ng ahya mo? And sabi niya, broadcast communication. And that was it. So when I got my UPCAT form, I wrote it down, broadcast communication. Here we go. And that's how I ended up there. And the funny thing about Broadcom is even the profs will tell you themselves na walang pera dito ha, lalo na when you're starting out. Hindi ka yayaman
Yeah.
dito. Like, you're not gonna take
Yeah.
this course kasi gusto mong yumaman. So, yung parents mo are already telling you na, hindi ka yayaman dyan. And then your profs are also telling you, parang hindi ka yayaman dyan. So you're like, okay, shit. So, I kind of already had it in my head na parang, I'm not going to be as wealthy agad as yung mga classmates ko will be in corporate courses. Right?
Yeah.
So I had that. But in terms of pushback, I actually didn't feel yung pushback from my parents until after I'd graduated with my degree. Because when I was in school, they were actually pretty supportive. They were pretty encouraging. Now, oh yeah, you go do it. Kasi it seems like you know what you want to do. It seems like you're pretty good at it. You can talk, you can write, you can express yourself. Go. It was after na parang na-feel ko na there's a little bit of pushback because my mom was like, okay, we let you have your fun in college. We let you get into a student DJ program. We let you try out having your own radio show. Now you're like 22, 23. Maybe it's time you get a real job. That's what I felt. So yeah, by the time I was 22 or 23, I think I'd already gotten a weekday radio slot. So for me, big deal yon. Kim, diba, you went through a student DJ program with us.
Yeah.
So you know what it's like to finally get the call na, you're gonna get to do a weekday show and then you're gonna get to do it regularly pa. And then may sweldo ka. But in radio, yung sweldo isn't really a lot. It's
Yeah.
barely enough to fill up your gas for the month and pay for your cell phone bill, your internet bill, and that's pretty much it. So, hindi ka talaga yayaman, lalo na if you're just starting out. Not everyone can be like on the level of Chris Chuper and Nicole Hiala. So, my mom was like, oh, you're probably gonna have to get a real job. So she got me an application at a major telco
Ooh.
company.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
nag-interview ako and everything. And then, naalala ko, medyo ginago ko lang yung interview because I had no intention of actually pursuing the application.
Mm-hmm.
So, they could also tell na hindi ko siya sineseryoso. So, they never called me back. My mom was trying to get me to apply for this bank and this other company.
Oh
And
my goodness, this back and that back.
Bank.
I could tell yung frustration
Mm-hmm.
on her part. And
Wait,
ako
I'm
naman,
so sorry. What job is this? Is this like a desk job
yeah,
or
she wanted me to
Oh
have a
my
desk job.
goodness.
Oh.
Desk job pero communications, mass comm related or hindi siya mass comm related? Just any desk
She just
job.
wanted me to have any desk job I could find. So,
Wow.
I mean, like, kung ipapasok ko yung degree ko, di sige, di ba? Push
Yeah.
natin yan. Pero, what she wanted was for me to have a desk job so I could have that regular sweldo na mas mataas
Yes, yes.
kaysa sa radio sweldo and the benefits that came with it. Yung SSS mo, yung PhilHealth mo.
Yeah.
It's practical shit, to be very fair, right? Pero syempre, like, 22-year-old me had no patience for that. I didn't want that. Pero to keep my mom happy, I applied for a non-profit called Teach for the Philippines because I had friends who were working on it. And even that was parang very iffy for them na parang really a non-profit and radio? Parang like, what are you doing? And then I had to explain na, see, I'm actually gonna be working the entire day now from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then ito yung combined sweldo ko. So I had to like tell them na, see, I'm like 22, 23. This is what I'm making already. So it's very Tsinoy in the sense na yung importante sa bottom line yung how much money are
How
you
much?
gonna take home and are you actually spending your time at work as opposed to fucking around the rest of the day?
Yeah, that's so true, man. Like you, Stan. I mean, I did some hosting. I did some like radio stints as well, and I'm still doing it now, but more on like it's a side gig or whenever gigs come, I would take them. And all the time, I always get this comment: "How much are you getting for that gig?" Or parang,
Yes.
"Are you getting millions in that gig?" Parang ganon. Like ibabato nila sa face mo. Parang millions ba yung ina-earn mo? Or for example, I'm doing like some other new thing. They're gonna tell me, are you earning millions there? No, you're not. Like, so it's not worth your time, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sobrang, I would say it's really toxic. Like you're trying to build your name or you're trying to build something. And then they're putting that all the time, like the money factor. So I would say if I'm a parent, I wouldn't do that to my kid. Like I wouldn't ask them how much they're earning. It's kind of rude.
Yeah, you're right when you say na toxic siya. And siguro swerte ako na hindi naman ganun ka in your face yung reactions ng parents ko. If anything, they did get excited when I started doing things like hosting. Like they would see me preparing my suits and I'd tell them na, oh, I'm gonna be driving to this hotel tonight because I'm hosting an event.
Yeah.
So, na-excite naman sila, but the idea na hindi ako full-time na nagtatrabaho in an office wasn't very appealing to them. And then for me to have to explain to people na, oh yeah, yung primary job ko is I'm a radio DJ. Like, that's what I do. It's hard to explain to yung parents or maybe not my parents because they already get it, but like uncles and aunties and then yung mga ama, angkong, guama, guakong, diba? Parang how will you explain to them that this is what I do for a living and it's not what the career you're used to? Like I don't heal people. I don't go into a courthouse. I don't do whatever the fuck engineers do. Sobrang ignorante. But like, how do you guys explain to the people from other generations, from the older generation, what it is that you do? Because multimedia arts, like for Tsinoys, that's pretty new pa rin.
Yeah, I believe that said your auntie or was it your mom has a specific answer to that. Parang whenever someone asks, oh, what does your son do? Tapos yung sagot lang niya, basta computer, computer. All they say is just computer. Basta nasa computer. That's it. And then people would ask, oh, is that IT? It's parang, no, it's not IT. It's arts. Like you draw, tapos it's so hard to explain to.
My mom just says, wait, computer, wait, Photoshop or something,
Oh, yeah, at least Photoshop. Kind of accurate because you do work with
she
Photoshop.
she knows Photoshop because of but
props to auntie.
Yeah, but Stan, I can totally relate to what you've mentioned earlier. Like your parents weren't thrilled about you not getting a full-time 9 to 5 job and that you're going to an office, right? Kim knows this. I've actually similar experiences tayo because when I graduated and got my first job, it was actually a work from home job,
Okay.
and I
You're
still
doing it
had
way before it was cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
This was 2014. This was 2014. I had a work from home job as a graphic designer for this consulting company, and salary and then benefits. So and I don't have to report to work, right? I just turn my emails on, and they're like, oh, but you can visit the office if you want. There's a space for you here. But then if you just feel like
Yeah.
um, you know, meeting the team. So okay, so most of the time gala lang ako. So it was
And
nice
wait,
na
wait. Eto pa, said, I'm gonna have to cut you.
yeah.
I have to let our listeners know, as a multimedia art student or as an art student, having a work from home job na paid is the dream. I'm just telling you that
I
it's
mean,
the dream. Okay.
that's also what I thought when during my first job. I was
Mm.
super thrilled. Na, and then I get to imagine mo, I get to okay, I go to the neighborhood cafe, and then I just my laptop and I work from there, right? So it was for me like it was, I guess you'd say, a dream fulfilled na for a first job, but at the same time it was cut short because what happened was my parents didn't understand the concept of working from home at the time in 2014, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they kept complaining to the point na there were arguments and there were fights na parang I should quit my job because that's not even a real job, and that
That's one of the
it,
worst things that a parent can tell you.
no,
Yeah.
seriously, like it's not a real job. You should like it's not even you're not even going to the office, and it's not. Parang what kind of a job is that? Na open time? Na it's not even 9 to 5. And then I had to explain to them na na this is good for me because at least I'm not spending on office food. I'm not spending on commute, on
Yeah.
gas. I just work from home. That's
Ang
that,
laking
right?
tipid nun, di ba?
Exactly, but for some reason, my old school Chinoy parents can't understand, can't fathom that. And honestly, it was kind of sad. Na there was a time that I got really depressed while working. It affected my work performance, and there were like during the last couple of months on my job, parang well, my mistakes were there, like typos here and there, and it didn't help when I couldn't focus because there was always the pestering that I should just quit and that's not even a real job. So parang
Sobrang
imbis
unfair
na
nun.
yeah, so imbis na I had a job that all of my batchmates wanted, right? But it became a double-edged sword for me. And then what happened was when I was sent in for evaluation 6 months, my boss that time told me that I had to be let go. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah.
Sayang.
So
It's a dream
yeah.
gig, diba? As Kim mentions na
Yeah.
for people in your field, that's something you strive to achieve, and then you get to achieve that your first job straight out of college, and then hindi mo siya na-maintain because the
Yeah.
circumstances just weren't in your favor, and they
Exactly.
weren't things you could even control.
Exactly.
Diba? Hassle siya. Ikaw, Kim, how do you explain that to the older generation? Lalo na yung mga friends ng parents mo, like diba, at gatherings when they ask, oh, dilitsong siya.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So usually I would say, I would give examples like, oh, okay, those Disney films like mga Frozen, mga yeah, all those like famous Disney films that you see some movie screens. I want to be there. I want to work there. That's what I do. So parang more of I make things move. So
Right.
in short, like I just keep it short lang. And majority of my mom's friends or maybe like the relatives I meet, they're medyo ano naman sila, medyo modern, so they know what it is, they know what animation is. So it was really easy to explain. But um, what I can say lang is I super relate to said as well. Like and you as well, Stan. Like getting a 9 to 5 job was parang it was a must for my parents. Like initially kasi I had a job also parang ano so similar to said like work from home as well. Yun didn't work out for so long because my mom was saying, "Oh, you should get a 9 to 5 job." And then once I got like this 9 to 5 job in a studio in Makati, that was great. But we had a lot of OTs.
Okay, overtime.
So, overtime. So, alam naman natin, advertising agencies, animation studios, anything that is arts related, it's a given that you're gonna do overtime. And my
Ayaw
parents
din ng
didn't like
parents
it.
yun.
Parang, alam mo yun, parang, what do you want me to do? I already have this 9 to 5 job and ayaw nyo rin ng OT. Parang you want everything to go your way, like 9 to 5, like bank. Bank
Right.
lang talaga yung you can say that 9 to 5, pag 5 p.m. you're done, you can go home. But
Right, right.
yeah, so far I really don't know where to put myself. It came to a point that my mom was like, "Oh, you know what? You should just quit." Wait, this came from my dad. He told me, "Oh, you know what, Kim? You should just quit your job. You know what you're getting there?" Because obviously they knew my salary because that was my first job. They were telling me, "Oh, you know what you're getting there is what my secretary is getting. So you should just work with me instead, like in the family business. You can get like more than that." And I was like, I mean, I'm not prepared to work in my family business, okay? I mean, I can help out in the aesthetic, uh,
Branding
yeah,
and
the
all that.
branding, the marketing. Yeah, I can do that, but definitely not the back ends
Secretarial.
or yung mga secretary. We cannot do that.
It's funny how
Um,
we're like halfway into this episode, sakala natin nabanggit yung konsepto ng family business. Well, I think
yeah,
Oh
Sen
yeah.
mentioned it earlier, pero
yeah,
diba,
yeah. He
it's
did.
also very Chinoy na, yeah, you know, after college, may
Just
family
go to your
business ka
family
na.
business. Mhm.
Like for
Oh
me,
yeah.
growing up, ang laki ng hugot ko against yung mga classmates ko who I felt,
Yeah,
ako lang, opinion ko lang, who I thought were just fucking around because they had the family business as a
Yes,
fallback.
yes,
Like
yes,
they didn't
yes.
need to excel, they didn't need to exert effort kasi may family business naman silang
Exactly.
mamanahin. Ako kasi I don't think I have a family business na mamanahin because my dad does his own thing, but it's literally a one-man practice. Like there's literally no room for me there. So I didn't feel like I had that fallback.
okay.
But you know, just bringing it back to you, Kim. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, yes, it's no problem. Yeah,
So yung going back to explaining siguro to parents how to make them understand what it is that we do. I love what you said, Kim, about showing them examples of animated movies like Frozen. Kasi yun gets nila eh. So
yeah,
like with me, when I got into radio, nung una hindi nila magets because they couldn't hear me because I didn't have a regular time slot. Student
yeah,
DJ, di ba? You're basically an intern. But when I got my own radio show
yeah,
and I started having my own posters dun sa social media nung station, and I started they started hearing my voice more often kasi regular na yung time slot, yun, nagets na nila. Like, uy, pabati ng friend ko na ganito. Uy, yung friend ko may business, gusto nila i-promote sa radio station mo. So yun nale-leverage na
yeah,
nila. When I got into hosting and they would see me on stage at like malls or hotels, they started getting na, he can actually earn enough money for whatever by just working his ass off for the next 3 hours on stage by putting on this type of performance. Or like, when I started doing voice work, that's when they really began to see what it was that what it
Yeah.
is that I do because they could hear the commercials, they could watch
yeah,
the commercials, they could send links to my
yeah,
relatives in the States. Like my guama who had passed away, before she passed away, she got to see a lot of my best work. So pinapanood niya, like I would send YouTube links and everything, so they could see it. And it was nice kasi finally naiintindihan na nila what it is that I do. And then the checks would come in and they would see it and they'd be like, "Oh wow, nakakagulat." And it
not bad. Like,
took some time, but we're here. Alam mo yun? So, did it ever get to that point for you guys where parang I wouldn't say na-vindicate, pero parang na-justify na yung career choice nyo, which to them was like very unconventional?
I can start here.
yeah, go.
So yeah, well, ganito. Because as early as college, I knew from my mentors who are in the same field as me, multimedia arts. They would say that your starting salary wouldn't be much, and compared to what your friends will be getting when they graduate. No, when they just newly graduate. So for me, what happened was as early as college, I started hustling. So I started working, taking in freelance gigs, and I was also buying and selling vintage eyewear
Okay.
because yeah, during this time 2012 to 2014, the whole hipster thing, took off. Suddenly everything vintage was cool, right? So ako naman, I used to go to my sources in Hidalgo and Carriedo for vintage Ray-Bans and other eyewear from the 70s and 80s. And I would sell them to my professors and to my classmates as well. So, I was saving up money. So it was nice na from calf food I can now go to Persia Grill in New Mall for my lunch. So and ano rin, and that's why it was nice now when during my downtimes when I got laid off my first job, parang I still had enough cash to just look around and see what I can do, right? So during that time, I also promoted my services as a freelance designer. So I started racking up my own regular freelance clients and contacts from there while I was still looking for a corporate job. Um, then lo and behold, when I got my next corporate job, it was quite bad because the shift changes from day to night within weeks, so your body doesn't have the time to adjust, right? So it wasn't good for my health. And I remember just a year or less than that, I resigned. But the good thing was I was able to save up enough and rack up a lot of freelance clients that I started Artsmith Studios. So, um, so I guess you can say that it was only when I started doing my own thing, then together teaming up with Kim, that my parents slowly started seeing the worth of my profession, even though for countless, like for how many years already, I tried explaining to them what multimedia arts is. Like for example, branding, right? You do the logo of, let's say, Nike or Coca-Cola or their ad campaigns, for example. But it's still hard for them to understand the concept other than Photoshop.
Right.
Yeah, but it was only through when I legit started my own thing with Kim, plus So Asian Comics, when that got momentum and we were suddenly getting interviewed by Tsinoy TV and having partnerships with other brands like Angkor Milk, for example. It was only during that time that my parents started nag-tone down na yung mga things that they were worried about from before.
Right. Yeah, I guess more or less ano naman, same yung sasabihin ko, but I would have to insert some things that say of course I'm doing like hosting and stuff on the side. And yeah, parang it's still kind of hard for my parents to grasp it. Like for example, I'm doing this podcast and then later I'm gonna actually be doing another podcast around 10:30 to 11, so that's a long way from now pa, so we're totally fine. But it's a difficult concept for my mom to grasp, or my dad's okay with it, but my mom, it's very difficult to handle her because she's very downtown Chinoy. So very Binondo, grew up with the usual like family business and just get married. So I mean, seeing me, like I'm doing all these things, she's like, "Why are you doing all of that? You're a woman, you're a girl. Like you should just find us."
A rich guy and then
Yeah,
just
just find a rich
relax.
guy and then relax ka na lang. And then for me, I'm the type of girl like, okay, I grew up in Ika. Syempre, I want to reach for something. Okay, I wanna do something, or maybe like I wanna leave a mark, just so to say. Like I just want to leave a mark. That's why I'm doing all these things. So she doesn't understand that sometimes, and she just wants me to quit everything that I'm doing. And it gets kind of toxic sometimes here at home. Let's say, for example, right now I'm doing this podcast. She's gonna say, "Oh, how long is that gonna take?" And then afterwards, like I'm gonna tell her, "Okay, it's an hour or an hour and 30 minutes," and then after that, I have another one. And she's like, "Why do you have to have two?" And I'm like, "I'm trying to build something here." So yeah, it's still very hard for me right now to explain what I'm doing, even though they see me on let's say they see me on TV like getting interviewed, or they see me on social media getting featured or whatever. It still doesn't matter to them. It's still like, oh, okay, yeah, you're not. It's either I'm not spending enough time with them, or they just don't like what I'm doing, or they don't understand it. I think the bottom line here is they're gonna hate on what they don't understand.
Yeah, a lot of it is very much like that nga, eh, di ba? Parang hindi mo naintindihan, hindi mo alam eh. And you could probably trace it to the fear of the unknown. But I've got to ask you, Kim, since your experience is different from mine and said, being na hindi kami babae and iba yung
Yeah.
expectation sa amin bilang lalaki, sa'yo bilang babae.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to a point where you called it out? Kasi you mentioned it earlier,
I
it's very
did.
patriarchal, it's kind of misogynist to suggest na, oh, babae ka naman eh, you can relax, just find some rich guy to bone and get married and
Yeah.
bear their kids, and then you're fine. You don't have to do
Yeah,
shit.
you're fine, Kim. You just need to do that. But for me, like honestly, no. I would prefer someone who I can build goals with rather than just marry him because he's rich. I mean, that's the stereotype naman yun eh. And I honestly have some stories. I mean, I'm not gonna name drop. I know some people who just, just got married to this nice guy na can provide, and then okay, they're okay now.
Oh,
I
tapos
mean,
na.
I think that's honestly, I think that's what my mom wants.
Yeah,
And
good stuff.
going to the topic of like, this is to tease our future episodes about relationships. So yeah, my mom would always like say, "Oh, you're already like this age, so you have to start looking, or you have to start thinking about like what's your next step in life, not just in relationship, but your next step in life. What are you gonna do?" So yeah, sometimes it gets really toxic, especially if you're still in that stage now. You're trying to build yourself. You're still trying to build your name. Ayun. So for women, I guess in the Chinoy community, I would say they have it much easier than men, because I think it's a lot of pressure then. Like, let's say, for example, this is coming from another friend. Now we were talking about this topic as well. Um, if you're a guy, parang you need to have a backbone or like a family business to
Mhm.
back you up so you can marry this nice Chinese girl.
Right.
If you're a Chinese girl naman, you have to be um, syempre well-mannered, polite, follows the
Like
family
that
of the
scene in
guy.
Mulan.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. And I would say Mulan is kind of parallel to what women's lives are pag Chinoy ka. So yeah, that's actually a really good example, Mulan.
Yeah, like you
Parang
have
you
to
have a
be a girl
certain
worth
set.
fighting for.
Yes, yes. Parang you have a certain set of parang qualities that you have to have for a Chinoy family to want you. But I guess I'm gonna save that for another podcast
Yeah, that's
episode.
a
But yeah,
different
that
kind
Yeah.
of worms altogether.
the
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be a lot to unpack as well. So yeah, just to put it out, guys have it harder because you have to have I would
We're
say good
the
good
breadwinners, you know?
yes, good family background. Pero pag girl, parang I would say not so much pressure talaga.
You
So
just have to
yeah.
get married and get kids.
Yeah. And if you're not doing that, parang you're doing something wrong with your life. So
Oh
Right,
man.
which again is a whole nother kind of
yep,
worms.
yep.
As we begin to wind down here, I want to ask about being compared to other kids your age or to yung mga classmates
Oof.
natin, yung mga ka-generation natin, because part and parcel pa rin yan ng conversation on careers, di ba? And I remember that my parents didn't necessarily compare me with my classmates growing up, which I'm pretty thankful for. Kasi I have other classmates naman na alam ko from their stories na kino-compare sila with our other classmates or with me, and that's toxic as hell. So yun, thankful ako for that. But at some point I began to compare myself with other people na ka-generation natin, because I began to get older, enter my late 20s and now my early 30s, and I'd be like, I'm still the same guy who would leave the house in a wrestling t-shirt, in shorts and sneakers and a snapback. Like, that's my signature look. Kung hindi ako
Yeah,
naka-shorts,
yeah.
naka-jeans ako. Like, I'm not like Sed, whose
No.
signature
Yeah.
look is a suit and tie, right?
Don't mind me,
Uh-huh.
don't mind me.
No, 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 no. I'm not really joshing you here, but like, even yung mga Makati professionals, diba? You go to Makati, hang out in the Central Business District on a weekday, and people our age would be in the corporate attire. Diba?
Yes.
Ako, when I'm there, mukha akong gigimik pa rin. Like, just a t-shirt
Yeah.
and
True.
jeans, or like a jacket and whatever. And it was okay when I was like 23, 24, because I was like, oh, it's just me being me. When I turned like 28, 29, I was like, I think I'm a man child. And I began to question myself na parang, should I get a day job? I had those questions. In a way, the same things that my parents, or that our parents, the generation above us, would be asking people like us, I started asking myself. And that's when I got scared. Kasi parang, am I doing something wrong? So I would have those moments. And I guess I wanted to know if you guys have those moments as well, because you guys are in your late 20s na.
Definitely. You want to go first, Kim?
No, no. Go ahead, Sid. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, definitely. Well, when it comes to comparing with other people, well, just so you know, I'm not really in touch with my high school batch, so I don't even know what's going on with their lives. But college, I don't know, not so much. But I'm just more of like just happy with where they are. Like, some of them are getting their masters. Some of them have their own condos, have their own space. So other people are getting married already, getting engaged here and there. But for me, what the question that lingers is like, what's next for my career, right? Especially in the midst of the pandemic, because well, ever since coronavirus, like a lot of our creative accounts for studios were on hold indefinitely because you can't go to a restaurant now to finish your mural works because everything's closed. So so that was when me and Kim would start experimenting with different fields. So there's furniture, and then for a time I revived my vintage eyewear shop. I would have some episodes where I would have this existential crisis every
Yeah.
time.
Which
Now
a lot of
I'm
people like
yeah,
us normally have.
because like the economy now is not the same as during our parents' time. Like, gosh, yes, my dad was able to afford his first small home, which I'm pretty sure was much cheaper back then, right? Real estate was
Yes.
much cheaper back then, but
Oh man, I don't think I'll be able to, looking at the rates or the
oh my gosh,
prices of the
45 million
houses.
for a house and lot.
Yes, prices of the
No,
houses right now, even condominiums, I don't think that's something you can
no,
buy.
no.
As a fresh grad or maybe someone in their mid
No,
20s,
and
like,
and
oh
to
man.
think that starting salaries now are still the same from 2005, apparently.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's a great
so
point. It's a great point that you
yeah,
guys bring up.
yeah,
On the subject of comparing oneself or being
yeah.
compared to people our age, like I've stopped attending yung mga reunions, and I've stopped even like reconnecting with people from my batch because I would find myself getting insecure when they start talking among themselves about, oh, I've invested in this slot,
Yeah, yeah,
I've bought
yeah.
this house, may property ako dito, may property ako doon. Kasi
I hear
parang
you.
very
I hear you.
unhealthy siya eh. And you just look at yourself na parang, tangina, may ginagawa ba akong mali with my life because of
Mm-hmm.
my career
True.
choice? So I was like, you know what, for my peace of mind, for my mental health, I'm just gonna stay away from yung mga ganitong tao kasi I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to be part of these conversations. So, Kim, with you, do these conversations happen? Like, parang, oh, yung anak ni ganito, ito na yung ginagawa, ikaw, nandito ka pa.
No, no, no. The first sentence, yes. Oy, parang yung daughter ni ganyan, blah,
Getting
blah, blah.
married.
Getting married or parang doing this. And then, hindi naman yung parang, Kim, what are you doing? Parang ganun. It's not like that. More of, I think it's my parents' way of saying na, oh, hey, this person's doing this.
Right.
What about
Parang, what
you?
about you? Kind of like that. They're not saying it in your face naman. More of parang passive, medyo passive aggressive a little bit. That's why I get really pissed off when they do that because I try every time they bring that up, I would ask them, o tapos parang what are you trying to say here?
Mm.
What are you trying to point out, right? Like it's kind of like I mean, you're not saying that out of wala lang, 'di ba? Parang minsan kasi sasabihin ng
Yeah.
mom ko, don't get mad, I'm just saying lang. And I'm like,
Like,
why
why
are you
bring it
saying
up at
that? And
all?
why are you bringing it up all of a sudden? Like
Uh-uh.
someone's daughter or someone's son. And I'm like, why are you bringing that up? It's kind of like you want to point something out, right? I think it's like that, and it gets really frustrating, especially when they bring up either it's career, for example. Si ganyan got a job in a high position job in this company or in
Right,
this
right.
prestigious company, which is really annoying. Parang it gives you the feeling na parang, are you doing enough?
Uh-uh.
Parang, I don't think you're doing enough. Parang ganun yung dating sa'yo eh, di ba? Parang you're not doing enough. Kaya nga yung anak ni ganito, nandito na sa kumpanya na to with a high position. So, yeah, I would say also very toxic. It's not gonna help you grow or it's not gonna help
Yeah.
your kids grow. Yeah.
Nakakatawa kasi, 'di ba, when parents bring up yung mga ganitong kwento, as you said, Kim, it makes you want to ask, okay, what's the point of you telling me
Oo,
the story? And then
exactly.
one of the basic defense arguments against your question is, wala, nagkukwento lang ako, 'di ba? Topic for conversation.
Wow. what a topic.
And
But I
and
mean, you
like
can talk about anything else, but of all the things you're gonna say that this person's daughter is doing this.
so
Diba?
like
Parang
my,
out of nowhere.
my sister tends to be pretty snarky, kind of like me. So sometimes she'd say something like, I think she said this kanina lang when we were having lunch, parang that story or this talk point has added absolutely zero value to my life. Like she said that at the dinner
I'm gonna
table.
use that.
I'm gonna use that. Added to
Tawang-tawa ako.
ano.
Tangina, tawang-tawa ako when she said that. She's like, this added absolutely zero value to my life. I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, that's really good. And
That's
I'm gonna use that.
actually witty. Pero that's true. Like, I mean, anong point, di ba? Parang anong point? And it's not gonna help your kid grow or whatever they're doing in life. It's not gonna help them succeed or whatever. I mean, just because you like what this other person's kid is doing,
Mm.
diba? You're gonna try to put it on your kid. That's not fair.
And it's not fair then to put yourself through that. Kasi nga, diba,
Yeah.
I shared about yung experience ko na whenever I'd hang out with yung mga old classmates ko, I'd just really get insecure because of yung mga kwento nila is, oh, my company, or oh, my ganito,
Investment.
my investments, blah, blah, blah. And it's just not something I'm interested in talking
Yes.
about because I'm not there. Wala ako sa point na yun.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I remember when I was a bit younger, like fresh out of college, ang laki ng hugot ko dun sa mga classmates ko who were already in suits, who were already in corporate. And I'm like, parang so what if you're making 60,000 pesos a month? You're selling soap. Like at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're selling soap. I am pursuing my passion, my craft. I'm talking to people and I'm accompanying them on their way to work or on their way home from work.
Yeah.
So this is younger me, napaka elitista, napaka idealistic. But when I get down to it, I'm also reading scripts where I'm also selling soap.
Oh, mga ads and sponsors.
Yeah.
So parang joke's on you and you're getting paid way less than these assholes. So
Yeah.
I hear you. Oh man.
So yeah, zooming out here, it's nice to have a conversation like this among fellow creatives kasi we're at similar stages in our lives. We're at a place where we have a little bit of perspective na we're not fresh grads anymore, diba? And we've gone through these experiences, and I hope na somehow, some way, somebody is listening who can identify with these struggles. Kasi I'm pretty sure na we're not the only three creatives na who happen to be Tsinoy and had to literally carve out a path for yourself because there are very few in our field who are like us, diba?
Yes. On our end, kasi it's trial and error because we don't really have a lot of mentors to look up to.
Yun, isa pa yun.
Yeah.
Diba?
So-
You can't ask anyone for advice because mostly, let's say, uncles or aunties or mga fellow Chinoys that are your age or even someone slightly older than you, they're not in your shoes. They didn't take up your course, so parang you can't really turn to anyone for any advice. Especially for me, animation. Who took up freaking animation? Not Chinoy. Or parang in my family, no one took up art. So it's really difficult for me to justify my career as well. So you really have to be in a place na you have to make it out there. Or let's say, like what Sed mentioned earlier, like when So Asian Comics came up, that was really such I would say, a big thing for us because it really changed the way they looked at us, because it came to a point that people would come to us in let's say family gatherings or parties or whatever, and they'd say, hey, can I take a photo with you because it's really nice. I'm not saying, I didn't want it for the fame. I never did it for the fame.
Yeah.
I just wanted to entertain people. I wanted to make
Exactly.
comics, diba? So it's just a nice how should I say this, parang nice gift afterwards that was given to us. So yeah, it was nice. So Asian Comics was the turning point for.
I'd also like to add just one more thing. And I guess like eventually, like me and Kim, when we started working, in our own studio, parang my parents wanted me to be a businessman, right? But well, technically, I am now a businessman with my own studio,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And for me, it's like I didn't go into a business or entrepreneurship school, but I learned how to negotiate with clients through freelance work as a graphic designer.
Ganda nung nabanggit mo, said na
Yeah.
you didn't really expect it or want it, pero
Yeah.
dun ka rin napunta, di ba? You ended up running your own business, and I really identify with that because as a freelancer, a lot of what I do is basically a portfolio. You said it
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah.
You diversified, and then everything you do has just become part of your business. And I used to think na my other batchmates, my other peers from high school, they're running the family business or they started their own company. And here I am at 31, may sarili na rin ako resibo for for the stuff that I do, for my
Exactly.
voice work, for my hosting services. And when I got my own official receipt from the BIR, that's when I realized na fuck, I am a businessman. I
Yeah.
run my own business. Like what I
There you
do
go.
is my business. When I get in front of this mic, and I'm working with my laptop. I'm running my business. So like I'm at a point where I can say that nobody can give me shit for waking up at 9 a.m. and being in my sando and shorts all day because we live in a
Yeah.
fucking pandemic, but I'm managing to
Yes.
make my business work.
There you have
Yeah.
it. There you have it.
There.
Right.
Yeah, well said. Oh man, yeah. That I think yung time din is such a big factor for mga older Chinoys or mga boomer Chinoys. Like yeah, going back to what I said earlier, like OT is a no-no for boomer Chinoys. And at our job, it really entails a lot of work, a lot of overtime. And for example, there are times na we would wake up late, let's say 10, 11. That's already late for them, and it's because you did OT, right? Like you
Uh-uh.
you stayed up till probably like 12 midnight, 1 a.m. Syempre, you're very tired. You
When
don't
the
wake up.
muse is there, the muse is there.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And you're more creative at night. Most
Yeah.
creatives know this. Like
Yes.
you have a lot of creative juices at night and you can't help it. And my mom would always put out this fact na, parang, why can't you just, wake up at 9 and then end your work at 5? Yun pa rin, nandun pa rin yung 9 to 5 all the
Not
time. And
everyone
I'm,
works at a bank, mom.
yeah, exactly. And oh, did I put this out there? Like there was a time now when I was looking for a job, my mom actually suggested that I go to any BDO branch,
And work as a bank teller.
specifically BDO. Bank teller daw sa BDO. Specifically the areas na maraming Chinoy. And I'm like, I think I kind of know where this is going.
So that
but
if
not-
a well-off customer, Chinoy
yeah, I'm
customer
like, I'm not
fancies
doing
you,
that.
Can
I am
discover
not.
you and then make you their
Exactly.
their perfect ideal Chinoy wife.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm like,
There's
what
a
am I gonna
scene
do
in
naman?
there's a
Yeah,
scene in
we're-
the movie
go.
Catch Me If You Can.
Uh-huh.
Have you watched that movie, Catch Me
Yes,
If You Can?
yes.
Yes.
You know the bank teller scene with Leonardo
Yes,
DiCaprio.
yes.
So I don't
Yeah.
know. That just came into my mind. So yeah.
Oh man.
So
Yeah.
as we end here, since I don't want us to just start ranting even more after we've already like quelled everything and like come
So
to a
much to unpack.
satisfying conclusion, you realize there really is a lot to unpack being Chinoys and being Chinoys of our age. Let's plug our businesses kasi we're at a point where we are legit business people and our careers have gotten to a point where we've diversified our portfolio. So let's start with you, Kim. Let's put your shit out there and let's get people working with you.
Oh man. Basically, this would be the same plug as said. So, Artsmith Studios, so multimedia production studios. So we do a lot of production work from graphic design, branding, down to video and animation. So anything that you need visually, you just go to us, Artsmith. That's artsmithph.com. So you can go check our website. Our entire portfolio is there. So yeah, just look it up on Google. And aside from
Gusto mo
that,
ulitin yun? I think you got the website wrong. Is it ph.com or com.ph?
it's artsmithph.com. It's really
Oh
like
shit,
that.
tama siya.
Yeah, tama
Okay,
siya.
okay. Sorry.
ph.com. Yeah,
Oh.
because apparently Artsmith Studios is taken na rin. So we had to go with a PH. And it's cheaper kasi if you put it as .com instead of .com.ph. It's more
Damn.
expensive.
I
so-
did not know that. I legit
Yeah,
learned something.
trivia for all of our listeners. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
correct yun, artsmithph.com. And then aside from that, this is just a pandemic business, and I'm happy to say that I got funded by this NGO. So this NGO actually provided me some cash money. So I was able to do a little back end stuff or the stuff that I'm not able to do, right? So I'm doing furnitures right now. It's because I have a supplier friend. So it actually really worked out for me. I mean, gives me extra cash if people buy. And then, I mean, I get to buy it at factory price and just resell it. So a lot of people don't know that the name is Mass Home. Literally Mass Home. Because, I mean, I don't know what else to name it. Alang na Kim Home, di ba? Because it's too similar
Kim
to
Store.
It's so common. So I said, sige, my last name na lang. So Mass Home. There you go.
I mean, you could
Just-
named it Kim's Convenience.
but I'm not so
Missed
sure about
opportunity.
hindi, pero copyright issues
Oh,
or
yeah.
something. I mean, I don't know. It's not that original, so I guess I just went with Mass Home. So yeah, check it out. And aside from that, obviously like So Asian Comics as well. So Asian Comics on Facebook, on Instagram, as well as I think we're on Twitter, but not so much there. Mostly like FB, Instagram. We're planning to do other platforms as well real soon, but just watch out for that. So far that's all I'm gonna plug. Said, how about you?
Okay, other than what Kim mentioned, I'll also plug in my vintage eyewear shop. So it's Rotherwood, it's Studio Rotherwood on Facebook. So I sell vintage eyewear from the 1960s up until the 1980s.
Wow.
So these are like just rare and like one piece per style. So like once it's sold, it's sold. I'm not sure if I can get another one like it forever. So yeah. Other than that, I also have a Greendale Supply Company on Facebook where we sell Marikina leather shoes and other leather goods such as bags and leather keychains. And this is something that me and my other partners designed, and then we partnered up with the workshop of Blackwing Shoes Marikina for this because we found out that so far they're the only shoe factory that we know who actually treats their workers fairly and with a livable wage. So that's why parang it's something that I admire sa kanila na yes, if you want to support local, you have to support local and ethical as well. So that's why, for me, Greendale Supply Company for leather goods. And at the same time, shout out to my friend, Mark Alba, who owns the Robertson's tie shop on Instagram. So we sell over there a premium vintage neckties. Like these are not mass produced, but these are actually made by Italian and English tailors in their small workshop. So these are not sweatshop made and all that. So yeah, so those are the businesses that I have so far ever since diversifying in the pandemic. So,
I mean,
how about
not
you,
bad
Stan?
for somebody who used to get like 75 or 70 something in math and science, diba?
Right.
Yep. Yep.
How about you, Stan?
For me, you can find all of my stuff online. Facebook.com/StanC online. You have my videos of me hosting over there. I also share the commercials I've done over there. If the brands put it up on Facebook, I most likely will have shared it over there on Facebook. Instagram and Twitter, it's the same @_StanC, STANSY. And on Twitter, my new pinned tweet is basically my updated VO reel. So I've got one in English, one in Tagalog. So it's all there if you want to check out my
Nice.
range,
Nice.
what I've done, the hosting, the podcasting, the voiceover work. It's all over there on social media, and you can just send me a message if you want to collaborate on anything. That's basically how projects like Now Steaming came together. Just simple DM.
Yep.
So slide into my DMs.
I like it. Yeah, I'm gonna plug in our podcast SOCMED as well. So that's Now Steaming Podcast. So the entire name, just type it up. Go on Facebook, Instagram, as well as our email. It's gonna be Now Steaming Podcast. If you wanna drop in like any messages or anything you wanna share with us, just
Yeah,
feel
mga
free.
comments,
Yes.
reactions, whatever you want to say about things we talked about. If you feel like we missed out on anything, let us know. We'd love to fill those gaps in. If you feel like we got some things inaccurately, you can also let us know. We'd love to be corrected as long as tama naman talaga. We don't want to be purveyors of fake news. So thanks, Kim, for putting our social media over. On that note, we got to end this episode, and we're really excited to continue on this season, our first season of Now Steaming, and we want to keep talking more about these issues na tayong mga Chinoys, especially the millennials that we're going through, because we gotta let that out somehow. And if we're going through it, we're pretty sure we're not alone. So on behalf of my co-hosts Cedric Cheng and Kimberly Mas, my name is Stancy, saying thank you very much for letting us serve you this batch of fresh takes from our eyes and ears and mouths as Chinoy millennials. Don't forget to stay safe, mask up, stay healthy, get those vaccines, and register to vote. We're out of here. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.